Sunday dinners at the Whitmore house had always been tradition: roast beef, red wine, and rehearsed concern masked as conversation. But lately, they'd begun to feel more like interrogations. I sat at the same seat I had since I was a kid, now 31, waiting for the inevitable ambush. My sister Elise didn't wait long. "I heard you turned down another job offer this week," she said, slicing her roast with surgical precision. I barely blinked. It wasn't the right fit. Across the table, my brother Nathan let out a cold laugh. "You've said that 6 times in 4 months. At what point do you stop chasing a fantasy and start living in the real world?" "I'm not chasing a fantasy. I'm looking for something that aligns with my values." Dad set his fork down with a clang, his voice like gravel. "You live in a showbox apartment and drive a car older than your nephew. What values are you holding out for, exactly?" Before I could answer, Mom chimed in with the lethal calm of someone who'd rehearsed her lines. "We've been patient, Brooke. We've made excuses for you to our friends, neighbors, clients because we believed you'd eventually get it together. I never asked you to make excuses for me." "No," Dad said. "But we did. Because that's what family does. Until it becomes a liability." A chill passed through me. This wasn't just criticism. This was a warning shot. Elise and Nathan exchanged a look, one that told me they'd planned this. This wasn't spontaneous, it was a coordinated execution. "We can't keep associating with someone who refuses to grow up," Elise said. "It's starting to affect our reputations." "My reputation?" I echoed. "You're embarrassed because I'm not a corporate drone like you." Nathan leaned forward. "You write freelance articles about eco-friendly pet shampoo, Brooke. That's not a career, it's a side hustle at best. You're an adult acting like a teenager playing pretend." "I write about sustainability, consumer ethics, social impact. Topics that don't pay the bills," Elise interrupted. "You're not building anything. No house, no family, no legacy." "Stability isn't everything," I said. Everything froze. Elise's jaw clenched, and Dad's face went dark. "You think the life we built is meaningless?" "No," I said. "I think you care more about what it looks like than what it feels like." And then Mom said it. The words that hit like a death sentence: "You're officially dead to this family." Just like that, the room shifted. Forks moved again. Glasses clinked. No one screamed. No one cried. They resumed dinner like they hadn't just buried me alive. I checked my phone, not expecting anything, and there it was. A notification: "Congratulations. Your article, The True Cost of Fast Fashion, has been selected as a finalist for the National Environmental Journalism Award. Please confirm attendance for tomorrow's ceremony." I stared at it. "Read it 3 times. The award came with a $50,000 grant and publishing deals. It was the biggest recognition in my field. The article had taken 3 months of research, interviews with garment workers and CEOs, and hours spent writing in that showbox apartment they all mocked. I said nothing. Let them finish their meal. Let them feel righteous. The next evening, I walked into a ballroom filled with the biggest names in media. When they announced my name, I couldn't move. The applause pulled me to the stage, where I held a crystal trophy and said, calmly, "This is for all the stories dismissed as unimportant. Sometimes the work that matters most is the work people refuse to understand." That night, the text started. "Elise, saw the news. Congrats. Nathan, so this journalism thing is legit, huh? Mom, call us. We need to talk. Dad, let's discuss this." I ignored them. The next morning, they showed up at my door, dressed in regret and pretending it hadn't happened. We think there was a misunderstanding, Elise said. No, I replied. You understood exactly what you were doing. They offered apologies, even suggested throwing a party in my honor. Suddenly, the same work they mocked had value because someone else said it did. I'm going to keep doing the work I believe in, I said. If you can support that, we can rebuild. But if you only show up when I make you look good, this conversation ends here. They nodded, but I saw the calculations behind their eyes. They hadn't changed. They were just adjusting. 3 months later, the attention faded and so did their interest. The old jokes returned, just softer now. Of course, we are proud of your award, they'd say, as if that erased years of belittlement. So, I took a job at a major environmental magazine. Moved across the country to Portland. Didn't tell them until I'd already unpacked. When I called, Mom was stunned. You left without saying anything? I'm 31, I said. I don't need permission to live my life. Distance gave us space. Slowly, my articles made their way into their lives not because they were impressive, but because they mattered. Elise called to say she'd finally read one. Nathan asked about sustainable investing. And when I won a Pulitzer 2 years later, they didn't brag. They just said, "We are proud of you." For the first time, I believed them. Sometimes, being cut off is exactly what you need to grow. Sometimes, you have to be declared dead before you're allowed to live.